Keni is joining us all the way from New York City as our first keynote speaker of the day. Keni will be speaking on the BrandLab's first pillar of exposure. A little bit more about Keni. Keni believes that there are 5 types of thinkers: creative thinkers, analytical thinkers, intuitive thinkers, logical thinkers, and visionary thinkers. Keni Thacker is a change pioneer committed to expanding diversity efforts, and his impact on future leaders does not go unnoticed. A true exemplar of leadership, Keni is an award-winning, let me say that again, Keni is an award-winning influencer and diversity advocate devoted to outreach programs and mentorship. Keni is also a tenured diversity, equity, cultural, and inclusion change agent, and one of Business Insider's top DEI consultants who helps companies, big and small, show up with purpose, where art and commerce meet, and humanity often falls short. Impressive. So, Keni is also the founder of 100 Roses from Concrete, a nonprofit organization that develops professionals of color in advertising, marketing, media, and public relations. It is my pleasure to introduce Keni Thacker. I always say that wrong. Keni, there's no R in your name. I don't know why I do it. Keni Thacker. So Keni and I met last fall on our first conversation, and I said, Keni, will you come and speak at the conference? He immediately said yes. In fact, he said, I was already planning on it. And in that conversation, we became fast friends. We are so aligned in our thinking and our approach to this important work that we do. We had such an amazing conversation. We actually decided in that very first conversation that we may actually be related because we're so aligned, and we can't prove or disprove it. So I believe that Keni is my brother, and I am so excited to welcome my brother, Keni, to the stage.
All right. She said Keni Thacker was here. What's going on, y'all? How y'all feeling? Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. All right, let's get this going. Let's get this going. Hopefully my microphones all work. So, are we here? Okay, good. All right. I'm gonna make sure this is working. There we go. So, before I get started, there's a couple things that I want to do. First and foremost, give it up for the BrandLab for making this day happen today. Give it up for them. Stand up, everybody stand up. Give it up for the BrandLab for making this happen today. Okay? We outside, we here. Okay? You can sit down now. Plus, you all needed a stretch, and this AC is pumping really hard. It reminded me of my first time to Minneapolis, which was like 2 months ago. It was like 0 degrees. It's like 0 degrees in here. Turn that down a little bit. Okay. Thank you for thanking the BrandLab team, but also definitely give it up for Kelly, Michaela, Julianne, Victoria. They definitely made it happen today. I'm so grateful to have them be a part of my circle. And give it up for yourself. You woke up today. Give it up for yourself. All right, this is not gonna be your average keynote address where I let you stay comfortable in your seat this morning. There's gonna be some questions, we're gonna go back and forth. That's how kind of I do, that's how 100 Roses from Concrete does. Gotta give a shout out to one of my alumni in the house, Justice, give it up for Justice. So, Kelly told you all some fun things about me. I wanna share a little bit about me as well. So I graduated from Lincoln University of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I'm a proud historically Black college graduate. Yes, I am. Proud historically Black college graduate. I also attended the Ad House in New York City and Cornell University as well, so I'm a little bougie. I'm good at a couple things. Like developing diverse talent and initiatives. This clicker is not really, there we go. I'm good at developing diversity initiatives and platforms, but also building sustainable and responsible partnerships. So all of you are here today to rock with the BrandLab. I want these partnerships to be responsible, but also sustainable. Just don't be here taking up a seat today. I want you all to continue your support from the BrandLab after today as well. Next. Went too far because clicker doesn't like me. Okay, here we go. So every superhero needs a theme song, and all of you probably hopefully have your own theme songs because I consider all of you super people, superhumans. Mine in particular is Dedication by the late great Nipsey Hussle, featuring Kendrick Lamar. And my personal mantra is being underestimated creates superheroes. So if any of you are into superhero movies, or even if you're not, if you're in the 616 MCU, the DCU, the metaverse, the multiverse, I'm pretty sure all of you have heard stories of superheroes and how in the beginning of those stories, people don't really believe in them. And they're like, oh, you don't know what you're doing, whatever, whatever. They think they're weak, but they grow into their greatness. And I'm pretty sure all of you are in the process of growing into your greatness right now as by being here and being a part of the Fearless Conference today. So once again, give yourselves a round of applause. It was all a dream. It was all a dream. These are the beginning lyrics to one of my favorite songs by the late, great, notorious B.I.G. The name of the song is called Juicy. Does anybody know how these lyrics go? It was all a dream. I used to read Salt and Pepper and Heavy D. That's right, that's right, that's right, that's right. I love that song. I love it so much. Now, why am I bringing up that song? Is because when I was in high school, fun fact, I wanted to be a rapper. I wanted to be a rapper because I heard MCs rocking the microphone from state to state, whether it was from the East Coast where I'm from, the West Coast, down South, Midwest. I loved it all. I was totally sold. I was totally sold on hip hop. But the interesting thing about my exposure to hip hop in particular was because I saw it on a variety of platforms, like the radio. I heard it on the radio, watched it on TV, and, read it in print as well. These were all central places where I processed information during my middle to late adolescent stages. I'm gonna get a little nerdy on y'all too. Now, in those middle to late adolescent stages, being exposed to hip hop changed the way I viewed the world. It influenced the way I walk, the way I talk, the way I dress. And it's such a beautiful thing. And the reason why I'm bringing up hip hop, because hip hop turned 50 years old this year. So give it up for hip hop, y'all. So exposure has been chosen as one of the first topics, as you all can see from over there, to be discussed today. And I'm so very proud and grateful to have this opportunity to talk about it with all of you today. But one thing that, in my many conversations with my sister Kelly, I told her, I'm gonna set the table for this day, because we need to set the table to help us walk through the day together in this space. So there's 4 things that I want all of you to do today. And the first thing that I want you to do is listen. Listen with an open mind. Listen to all the great information from the people you're gonna meet at your table to the people you're gonna meet online for the bathroom. I don't know, listen. Listen to all this great information that you're gonna receive today. Next, I want you to learn. Learn from all this information that you're gonna be receiving from all these really great people. They put together a power-packed day full of powerful, super-powered people. So, learn. Next, I want you to share. Share the information that you're gonna be receiving today from all these great people, even if it's just someone at your table. Share that information. And the last one is very important. Leverage. Leverage all of the information that you're gonna be taking in today and put it into action. Just don't come here to take up a seat, as I said before. Take this information with you back to your classrooms, back to your agencies, and say, this is what we need to be doing. Y'all with me? All right. So, when you think about the problems with the advertising industry, God bless it. Hopefully it lasts. Y'all okay. But when you think about the issues when it comes to talent in the advertising industry, it all stems back to exposure. It stems back to exposure, and that exposure leads to less access, and that less access leads to less opportunity and less equity for everyone that's considered other when it comes to this industry. Now, for decades, people of color have had a really hard time getting into this industry. Really, really hard time. Some people, it's almost impossible. I was having a conversation with one of my BrandLab team, new family members, and they were telling me, oh, well, you know, one of our fellows, they had to do 3 different programs just to get an entry-level full-time job. 3 different programs. I kind of put it as, they had to be like Beyonce. They had to be able to sing, dance, and act just to get an entry-level job. How is that fair? Where's the fairness in that? Maybe we need to add a fairness banner to there as well. Just something to think about. So as I'm telling you all of this, I really want to bring it into perspective and show you all some statistics, because it's nothing like me being up here just talking without actually data to actually show you all. So if we look at these pie charts that I created, I actually did a pretty good job of these pie charts because they match the color. But if you look at the US right now is about 59% Caucasian, 19% Latinx, 14% African American, 6% Asian, 2% biracial, and 1% Native or Indigenous. And when you look at the Twin Cities, it's 64% Caucasian and 36% people of color. But let's look at it versus the Twin Cities ad industry. Oh yeah. The ad industry in the Twin Cities is 88% Caucasian and 12% people of color. That's 3 times less than the national demographics in the Twin Cities. If we look at it for Kansas City is 55% Caucasian, 45% people of color. So a little bit more diverse than the Twin Cities. But when we look at the Kansas City ad industry versus the demographics in Kansas City, you will see that the ad industry is 90% Caucasian and 10% people of color. So there's this study that shows that Milwaukee is considered 40th out of the 50th largest metros for racial equity. All they would have to do is hire another 1,600 people of color to match the metro workforce. These stats make it even more clear how hard it really is to get into the advertising industry, even if you live in a diverse city. How much sense does that make? Here's a fact that some of you maybe didn't know. Because advertising folks, y'all love to talk about the Super Bowl. Don't act like y'all don't. Oh, we're gonna have at lunchtime, we're gonna get together and talk about all the ads. Oh, Lord. It's giving me agency PTSD up in here. This year's Super Bowl, out of all the ads, only 1 commercial was directed by a Black woman. 1 commercial. And according to Ad Age, less than 10% of the ads from last year's Super Bowl were directed by a woman or a person of color. That was just last year. This is the year 2023. That's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. Clap if you agree. It's not acceptable. Now, for some students, advertising is not an option until they get to college, because we're not really exposing high school students to this industry, right? We're not really doing that. And when they get to college, most of them are not even taught by instructors that look like them, that can sympathize and empathize with their journeys. So to all my new friends, I met some new friends here today. I think I met a new friend named Gina. Where you at, Gina? That's Gina. There she goes. So to all my new friends and my allies, it is imperative when you are exposing young, diverse talent to this industry, use a diverse set of influences. Over the last 50 years, there's been some really great contributions to this industry by women and people of color to this industry. But let me make this make sense. Let me make this make sense for you. I did my own research. Keni Thacker Research LLC, I just made that up. But I did my own research, and I looked at the top 5 advertising portfolio schools here in the US. And to all my HR talent folks, y'all know what schools I'm talking about. So I did my research of these top 5 advertising portfolio schools that are considered the go-to for most agencies when they're looking for talent. If you notice in that sentence, I said when they're looking for talent. I didn't say when they're looking for diverse talent. What I came up with is that they only have 3 to 5% instructors of color at these advertising portfolio schools. But this is where all the agencies run to find talent. So you see the problem in the matrix already. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know the less someone is exposed to something, the less they know about it, and the less they're going to be interested. And I could take it even farther and say, when someone is not exposed to something and there isn't any type of representation in that said field, the less they're inspired. So let's stay in this realm of inspiration, because I'm pretty sure some of you woke up this morning and you were like, I'm gonna go to the Fearless Conference and I'm gonna be inspired. Damn right you are. So when I think of inspiration in particular, I think of it as a variety of elements that I put together that inspire me. So it's kind of like, for my friends that drink, it's like a cocktail. To my friends that don't drink, just like a concoction of some sort. So in my inspiration concoction, it's made up of hope, faith, and dreams, shaken, not stirred, with a little bit of James Bond energy. So I want you all to think about what 3 elements would you put into your inspiration cocktail, and I want to take like 1 or 2 answers. So think about it. I'm gonna give you about 15 seconds, and then think about 3 elements that you would put into your inspiration concoction, or for those that drink, cocktail. So starting now. Time's up. I know, I'm a horrible teacher. Justice knows. All right, so you can just raise your hand and I'll repeat what you say if I can hear you, or send me a kite. Gina, because that's the only person's name I know here. Boom. Say it again, Gina, for him. For the people in the back, in the cheap seats. Boom. Give Gina a round of applause. So Dorian, what she said, we're gonna have like a double of those at the reception today, so we're gonna get it. All right. All right, who else? We get 1 more or 2 more. Yes, my friend. Drive, vision, passion. Yes, give me those keys, girl. Give me them keys. So the beautiful thing about advertising is that it's absolutely everywhere. Whether we recognize it or not, art, sound, copy, and moving pictures expose us to brands that inspire us. Even if you listen to music, and especially if you listen to hip hop music, brands are being dropped all the time. I was listening to a song the other day. The name of the song was called Pedialyte. For real. I was like, okay, I can get with this. Even if you have a label on your shirt, on your bag, on your shoes, you're a part of that brand's advertising. So to say simply put, it's absolutely everywhere. But that's what marketing does, right? It exposes us to things that we need and that we don't need. It channels and molds our cool, and even allows us to be inspired. So my question to all of you today is, how do we continue in this moment and take charge of giving people exposure to what we do? Let's give them the opportunity to be inspired, but also make a great living at the same time. Now, one thing people of color don't have to do is to prove to anyone that we know how to spend money, right? We know how to spend money. We know how to spend it. We know how to make it stretch, and we know how to get it. Communities of color contribute over $4 trillion to the US economy every single year. So if I have a CFO in the house, you better be listening right now. Over $4 trillion to the US economy every single year. So imagine if we took that same initiative and applied it to the advertising industry and made it an option as a career instead of an alternative. Oh, thank you. For way too long, whether it was consciously or unconsciously, people of color have been pushed away from the advertising industry due to the lack of representation and validation that it is a viable means to make a living. So right now, I want to take a poetic pause, if you all don't mind. And I want to quote one of the greats, if the clicker works with me. Maybe I'm pointing it at the wrong direction. There we go. So, James Baldwin said, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." Let that sink in. And I'm gonna say it again. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. So as we strategize, collaborate, and brainstorm on the type of engagement and services and exposure we give those from diverse backgrounds to get into the advertising industry, we must first face the decades-old problem at hand. And you can look at those pillars, and that's the decades-old problem right there. So I'm not telling you all anything you don't know, but let me put this for you in the form of a timeline. Yep, there we go. So in 2009, the BrandLab came on the scene. Yeah, the BrandLab came on the scene in 2009. However, the conversation and action about exposing more diverse talent to the advertising industry started back in 1967 with the creation of the basic ad course by the late great Bill Sharp. Give it up for Bill Sharp. I'm gonna give y'all some history today too. And here we are today. The pillars that are going to be discussed throughout today are all a part of a marathon and not a 100-yard dash. And I'm showing you this timeline to show you how long people have been working at doing this work. It's been a long, long time to try to provide this exposure to people. Yet, as you all can see, if it started back in 1967, it's 2023, and we're still talking about this. That means the progress has been at a turtle's pace. A turtle's pace. You can clap to that. But we need to fix it. All right, where are we at? So let me put this to you all in a different way. We all love our parents. For better or for worse, we love our parents, right? Whomever raised you, I'm pretty sure you love them. But if the time when you were having that conversation about careers, I'm pretty sure those conversations weren't about careers in advertising. I see my friend there in the pink shirt. She's like, nope, it wasn't. I'm pretty sure your parents wanted you to have a more stable / essential career, like lawyer, teacher, doctor, police officer. A good friend of mine who's a creative director at TikTok, he's of Nigerian descent. And he told me in a conversation with his parents about careers, they told him, if you're not a doctor, you're a loser. These are common conversations in communities of color because our creative sides are not elevated and embraced because of the simple lack of exposure. So to all my professionals in the house, I want you all to think about when you are exposed to the career that you have right now, the job that you do right now. But then I also want you to think about that feeling when you were like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. This is what I was meant to do. So I'm gonna give you all another short couple seconds to think about it. And then I wanna ask you a question on when were you exposed to it and that feeling. So I'm gonna give you about 10 to 12 seconds to think about that. All right. So you just raise your hand and I'll call on you. Everybody too shy? Oh, my man right there. Oh, Mustafa. So Mustafa, when were you exposed to the career that you have right now? Okay. Now, what was that emotional feeling when you were like, this is what I want to do? Describe that feeling for us.
The feeling to me was a feeling of like, I found a sense of self. Like I found a piece of me that I didn't even know was missing. And so then I felt like, okay, this is what I want to do. And this is where I want to lead my life to. Like, it was just like a big sense of self-discovery.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for that answer. Give him a round of applause. So, the reason why I asked how did it feel is because I wanted to draw that connection between your emotions and your career. Because there's nothing like that feeling like Mustafa just described, when you just feel it, you feel it like in your guts, you feel it in your heart, you feel it in your soul. And you're like, I can see myself doing this work for the unforeseeable future, and it doesn't even feel like work. You just love what you do. But one thing I want all of us to think about, especially after that great description, is that we need more moments like this for ourselves. But not just for ourselves. We need them for those that are coming after us and even our peers, to bring them into the advertising industry as well. We need to start mining moments that matter for all people, regardless of discipline, because we need to expose people to what's in our hearts, but also in our minds. So, let me tell y'all something. We're at a crossroads right now. So as like-minded individuals, as intelligent individuals, we need to think about what we're going to do at this crossroads, because we either do it right this time or we don't do it at all. But it's going to take all of us and your friends and colleagues that are not here today. It's going to take them too. So what I want to do right now is lay out an exposure roadmap, because as privileged as I am to have the opportunity to be your keynote speaker today, I just don't want to be up here, telling a couple jokes and dropping some facts. I actually want to give you all some solutions that you can take back to wherever you work, wherever you go to school. You tell your teachers, you tell your professors, you tell your boss, this is what you're going to need to do. First, we need to talk about something, because we're all family here, so I can talk to y'all however I want. We need to talk about how do we transform intent to intentional. 2020 was a year of reckoning. We all know that. And to my local people here in Minneapolis, you all know that. It was a year of reckoning. And it was a year of reckoning for a lot of industries, including the advertising industry. But due to this beautiful crowd here today, we all know that there was a whole lot of intent without being intentional. And all the roses go to all my local Minneapolis people, because you all were at the epicenter of that change. Now, according to Bloomberg, companies' commitment to D&I work increased by 123% in 2020, but that commitment dropped by 19% last year. And in another survey by Glassdoor, DEI programs increased by 39% in 2020, had its peak in 2021 at 43%, last year dropped down to 41%, and is expected to drop even more this year. This is what I mean by a whole lot of intent without being intentional. A lot of organizations think, oh, we solved it. But I just showed you all the ad industry demographics in the Twin Cities and Kansas City. Y'all haven't solved this, not yet. And it's not even about Kansas City and the Twin Cities. This is happening in New York. This is happening in LA. This is happening in Detroit. This is happening in Chicago. This is an America thing. This is a problem that the whole country is facing. So here's the definition of intent. Done on purpose, deliberate. Pretty simple definition. As professionals at all levels, it is our duty to be intentional about what we do to transform and to develop the next generation of talent from all walks of life. We cannot stay in a simple place of just intent. Because let me tell you all something. Intent doesn't require three things. It doesn't require responsibility, accountability, and action. It doesn't require those things. It doesn't require them. Now, there's a difference between responsibility and accountability. Responsibility is task-oriented. Accountability is focused on results. So when we think about being intentional about exposure, it is imperative that we are being intentional with responsibility and accountability and transforming that into action. And not just action for the moment. Not just action, because I just don't want the Fearless Conference just to be today. We need to have this be forward movement, because I just told you all about some numbers that are slowly going back down. This needs to be about forward movement for years and years to come. So next is commitment. For too long, and I'm a shout out to my talent people out there, don't hate me after I say this, but for too long, the advertising industry has been playing the dating game when it comes to women and talent of color without putting a ring on it, to channel Beyonce real quick. And what do I mean by putting a ring on it? I mean by committing to hiring, developing, paying, and promoting diverse talent and women fairly. No more of this dating. Will he, will she? No. Put a ring on it. Commit to it. Now is work. That's it. So we need to think about the bigger picture. Now, next is focus. And I know that focusing in today's world is extremely hard, right? We got cameras and screens everywhere. And sadly, we feel like we're being bombarded by a barrage of bad news all the time. But that's why focus is so very important in regard to what I was talking about earlier with that responsibility and that accountability, because that clear focus on the tasks that we want and the results that we want to look for in the short term and long term will be important factors in giving that optimum exposure that we want to deliver. Now, the short term, that's the low-hanging fruit. That's a little bit easier for us to get. But the long term is the high-hanging fruit and objectives that will require systemic change. Now, if you don't know what that systemic change looks like in the advertising business, I've been advertising like, I don't know, 16 years, something like that. It's going to require a deep dive look at our policies, procedures, and our programming. And then looking back at ourselves and say, what role do I play as whatever your role is in creating systemic change? That's what it's going to take. Now, the focus is going to also take you thinking about what does diverse talent need in order to be successful. And then second, you're going to have to think about what type of resources are you going to need in order to help this focus happen, right? The resources are always two things. It's finances and it's people. People power, finances, work with the people. That's how you get it done. That's very important. Now, the reason why I say be realistic about creating your timeline with these resources that you have is because we're trying to battle a problem that's been around for decades and decades and decades. So it's very important to understand that there is no overnight fix to this problem, and do not turn to people of color assuming that they have the answers to a problem that they did not create. I got a little passionate on that one. Engagement and empowerment. This is my happy one. I love engagement and empowerment. Engage and empower your audience and find out what the next generation is looking for out of their careers. Help them realize that they have the power to be implicitly culturally curious about the agencies that they want to work for, but also make sure that the agencies that they want to work for match their mission, vision, and values. Now, the reason why I bring up culture is because agencies, and I don't know if many of my people here work in new business, but shout out to y'all. But I'm sorry, agencies swear they know what culture is. Y'all don't know what culture is. You assume you know what it is, and that's great. But technically, let me get nerd hat on real quick. But technically, according to Harvard Business Review, culture is unspoken behaviors, mindsets, and social patterns. That's the technical definition. But if you look at most agencies, visit a website during one of these breaks, any agency that you're interested in. But when you look at most agencies, you will see that most agencies exude exclusion and the lack of representation from gender, identity, race, and ability at all levels. At all levels, from the bottom all the way to the top. It's not right. It's not right at all. If you're, so next I want to talk about execution. And when it comes to your execution, you have to think about a couple things. And I'm going to wrap up very soon. If y'all ready for me to wrap up? No, y'all want to keep going? Okay. Now, if your commitment is opportunistic and it's powered by your personal agenda, your focus will be blurred because you'll be focusing on being performative for free press and not actually creating systemic change. If your engagement with your employees of color, your women, LGBTQ plus committee is because of the horrible things that are happening to our women and our LGBTQ plus community and black and people of color in this country because of the racial unrest, then you're missing the mark because your engagement and empowerment will be reactive instead of proactive. As I tell my beloved audiences all the time, your execution must come from a place of truth and empathy, because if it doesn't, people will see straight through that and hold those in power responsible and accountable. And I say that to say this as I come to a slow close, not done just yet. There is no finish line to this work, my friends. There is only evolution. So as slow as this evolution has been in this industry, that's all we can hope for and continue to work together on to build. And the progress we make during this time by giving exposure, access, and opportunity should be something that we're doing that should be sustainable, but also perpetual and actually outlive us all, because this is taking way too damn long. Now, the science says a little bit different. According to Forbes said that the advertising industry wouldn't be racially equal until around 2079. Call Jesus. It's okay. And that was 14 years after another prediction that said the advertising industry wouldn't be racially equal until 2066. As my friend that said Jesus Christ said, those dates are unacceptable. However, we have to accept that there is no overnight fix to decades of disparity from an industry that has thrived, survived, and profited off of a lot of exposure to some as a career at an exclusion of a lot of others. That's why all of the strategy and purposeful programming must produce valuable exposure that will result in tangible change, and we should see it across all levels, genders, able-bodiedness, and everything in between. Now, the opportunity will lead to higher access, opportunity, and equity for everyone that's involved. And with that opportunity will come the talent that will change and challenge us all at the same time. But it will also make the work better. CFOs, I'm talking to y'all. It will make the work better. And it will also align with the unstoppable direction of the beautiful makeup of this country. But we have to put our hearts in it, my friends, in order for it to have an effect on our agencies and our industry. So, it's up to you to be fearless, not just today, tomorrow, and every day. Be fearless in the way you communicate. Be fearless in the way you support organizations like the BrandLab that are out here doing the work. Be fearless in the way you organize. Be fearless in the way you strategize. Be fearless in being intentional. Be fearless in the way you empower and engage diverse talent. And be fearless in the way you prepare to make a mentally, psychologically safe environment for that diverse talent. And last but not least, be fearless in the way you create exposure, access, opportunity, and equity. Because, like the song goes, you know very well who you are. Don't let them hold you down. Reach for the stars. My name is Keni Thacker. I appreciate y'all making the space for me today. Y'all are awesome. Enjoy the rest of y'all day.